You've actually given that to Beast to see.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What are you trying to say?
I'm not saying anything. I'm laughing at what Mike's done for you.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous about doing this review with you guys because when it comes to It Chapter 2, there was a lot I loved, but there was a lot I hated as well. And I know you guys walked out thinking it. Well, you seem to think it was amazing. So this could be a very mixed review, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Yeah,
We're here to argue the toss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Just don't hate me. That's all I'm asking.
As if we could. Okay, so It Chapter 2, obviously 27 years on from when they were children, they've all gone off, they've all got their own lives, except for one, he stayed behind. He notices things start to go wrong, so he calls them all up, gets them all to come back. But as they left the town, they've all lost their memory. So he has to get them all together and try and take on it full force.
We didn't stop it.
Pennywise.
The clown. We can't let it happen again.
So let's start with the real positive, the casting. I agree.
Definitely.
I think they did a really good job. James McAvoy was fairly good in it. Yeah.
I didn't think he had a very big part though, considering he's the main character. I
He's
felt
supposed to
he
link
took a
the losers
sidestep
to
back to kind of Bev and Ben a little bit.
See, I just didn't feel enough time was invested in them as adults. I think every character kind of got a tiny little scene at the beginning.
There is very much with the second as well how there's a lot of segments that go back to them still being children as well, which I noticed. So yeah, even though it's supposed to be them 27 years on, they're all adults, there seems to be a lot that still flicks back to the first film as well.
But the casting was amazing.
Definitely.
I thought they had a real struggle on their hands to not only find actors that looked like the children, but they needed to find actors that could actually act as well.
Yeah.
And that they could. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to see more of the kids in the second part. The children are integral to the whole feel of it.
And with that as well, I think that's one of the things that made It Chapter 1 a bit more scary, because if you're a child and you see Pennywise, that is going to be scary as hell. But as an adult, it didn't quite have that same fear factor.
Yeah, absolutely. I did like something that I read about King actually, and he says that he's not so worried about his fee when it comes to people adapting his movies for the big screen, adapting his books for the big screen. He actually said as long as he has executive producing rights over it, he's fine with it. And 5%, which is great, but
yeah.
I think I would feel similar about my creation if somebody was going to put their own spin on it.
But
I want it to do it justice.
Let's just remember as well, he does have a cameo in most of them.
Yeah.
I was actually really, really pleased that he had that cameo in the second. I'm kind of glad they didn't put him in the first, or if he was in there, I didn't notice him. But I do like the fact that he was in the second, just for that little bit that he's in.
But then it seemed from that moment onwards, it was a comedy.
It was a very much a black comedy.
Just like, where's the horror?
No,
like
it
the old
was-
lady was scary. I genuinely jumped, and I think I ended up on somebody else's lap for a second there, and that was really quite creepy. But after that, it was comedy.
I did find it was more of a black comedy than a horror.
I think the humour was one of the things I loved and hated. I did love the fact there was that comic relief, but sometimes where they put the jokes took me out of the film. For example, one of the characters, when he's just been stabbed in the face and he's trying to sneak out the room, he says to the guy that stabbed him, "Really? 27 years and you still got a mullet?" Like, it's funny, but it just didn't seem like something someone would say in that situation.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that maybe made this sequel a little less scary as well is in It Chapter 1, Pennywise is in the shadows quite a lot. It's quite menacing, whereas he's quite, he's out in broad daylight in this one. And even though I do love the scenes he's in because he's such an eccentric character, it just didn't feel quite as menacing. Like, it didn't have that kind of creepy factor.
I do find the eye thing becomes a bit comical after a while as well.
Yeah.
I didn't actually realise, I read something today that online that apparently he can actually do that. And Bill Hader said to him, how did you get the job and stuff? And he does it. And there is a brilliant caption of Bill Hader just kind of in complete fear of Bill Skarsgård, the way his eyes just gone one way and then one's facing forward. I thought, so they obviously had quite a lot of fun off set as well, which you can tell from parts of the film, like they genuinely looked like they had quite a laugh doing it, to be honest.
And how good was Bill Hader as well?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
He is the comic relief. I don't think they could have picked a better actor for that particular part.
No, definitely not. No.
He's got a
He
very
did it well.
dry wit to him, which worked well for those quips, didn't it? Something that stood out for me as well was that the teenage, I can't remember the guy's name who's got the knife and the psychopathic cop dad. Can't remember his name now, but the teenage version of him in chapter 1 was so much scarier than the adult version of him that's just come out of a mental institution and's been instructed to kill everybody by it. That, to me, just how do you make that happen? That a teenage kid is scarier than an adult? I don't know.
I think he was just badly written. I think they made his character a bit too goofy and they underused him. Yeah.
I have to admit, I think from the casting, I think it was really, really good, but the one person that I was disappointed with was Jessica Chastain as Bev. I just thought they could have picked someone a lot more intense. I just found she kind of took a step back a little bit, and she was such a vocal point in the first film. She was the only female, so she was potentially the lead female role, but I just felt she wasn't as portrayed as well as in the second film.
So it's not so much the actress, it's the way she was written?
Bit of both. I think they could have picked a better actress for her.
That's fair enough.
Couple in mind, but I don't know, I just feel that she wasn't as forward as she was in the first film. She seemed more scared with her backstory, with her husband and everything else. It didn't fit for me.
So the running time, just shy of 3 hours. Given that the storyline is quite simple, it didn't need to be that long.
No.
Given the fact that we watched a double bill as well.
Ah, I was shattered, yeah.
My bum was extremely numb for those 5.5 hours roughly?
Oh, it was too long. But yeah, the second chapter went on. But I remember that in the original as well, that it went on. I think whenever you adapt a book as dense as Stephen King can write, you've really got to do some kind of sadistic cutting of material. And yeah, it's a tough job to do.
I feel I have been quite negative. One thing I will say was it was fun. I think it was edited really well. They got really creative with the murder scenes, and
I do feel from the opening scene with what happened, without spoiling anything, that whole opening scene for me was so intense.
Yeah. I think if they'd have kept the momentum and the suspense of the intro throughout, it would have been a much more solid film. I think they clearly had a much bigger budget, and it's almost like the filmmakers were like, let's just have some fun with this. But it wasn't needed. It didn't need that big budget. I think just some slow burning horror would have been... I'd have liked that.
Yeah.
I think the scene that really worked the best for me was when I can't remember her name now, I'm terrible with names, the lead female goes back to her house and meets the new resident.
Yeah.
And it's an old lady. And I'm not going to spoil too much, but I think you watch the trailer, and the trailer's different to the actual movie edit, and for a good reason. And that was a great scene. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything. What about the ending? Let's end with that.
Makes sense.
I get to that point with movies like this where how many times can you kill the bad guy before they stop coming back to life? And that really, really bugs me. It's like, no, he's dead this time.
He's gonna stay dead.
He's gonna stay dead. Why? Because we believe it. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
27 years later.
Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen in 20? There's even talk of an It Chapter 3, and they reckon Skarsgård is online for. He's up for it. So I don't know. I
can't see how that would be possible.
I think that's a terrible idea. And you've also then opened up the door to why isn't it dead? And why wasn't it dead the 15th time that they killed it? And it just goes on.
That will just take the suspense out of it even more. If you know that every time he dies he's just going to come back, it's like, well,
yeah, what's the point?
I'm not invested.
Chapter 15.
It 15.
It comes back again.
What's 27 times 300? Because that's
how
how far in the future it'll be.
So, I have a feeling you'll be slightly more generous with this. Out of 5 Pennywises, what would you give this film?
3 and 1 red floating balloon.
Oh, okay, that's not as much as I thought you might give it.
No,
Okay.
3.
I'm around the 3 mark as well, I must admit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stretch to any more. There was one really good scene, like I've mentioned, that would have put it over a 3 if there was more of that. It would have been a 4 if it was more of that kind of scare for me. But that's just me, that's what I enjoy in a movie that's supposed to be a horror.
Yeah, I was worried that maybe because I had my critic's hat on that I was over-analysing it a bit too much, but I don't think I can go higher than a 3 myself as well. So it's actually more, we're on the same wavelength as I thought it'd be.
We are indeed.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Always a pleasure to have my horror guru friends with me, Nats and Ross. I'm sure you'll see them in other videos moving forward. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, comment below, all that jazz. It helps a small channel slowly grow into a big one. See you next time.
Oh.